economy. They're not paying taxes, right? They're taking from the government. They're taking from roads, hospitals. In fact, I probably think we're going to go into a recession because of that. If they're not going to contribute to the economy, they're not paying taxes. Hey guys, welcome to another edition of Broadview Table Talks. Today, we're going to be talking about the rising interest rates and what that means to your mortgage. So as you know, Bank of Canada started raising their rates aggressively in March, and they started that with half point increase, quarter point increase? Quarter point, then half point. Yeah, half point in April, and June's coming up, and there's going to probably be another, people are talking about half point to 1 full point of interest rates. And every time you raise those payments, it increases your mortgage payments by quite a bit.
Yep.
But the issue is that if you punch out the calculation, you look at the mortgage calculator, it only makes a $12 difference every $100,000 mortgage, right? So it's not that much. And the best part, and I keep telling everybody about this, is that 5 of the big 6 banks out there offer cap payment structures where if the rates go up, your payments still stay the same. It's just the amortization. You're paying more towards interest. So basically it takes longer to pay it off, right? Scotia is the only one that doesn't have the cap payment structure unless you do a 3-year variable or you specifically request for it. So I don't think it's the end of the world. What about you?
Honestly, I just renewed my mortgage and I don't think it's the end of the world either. I'm still trying to pull equity out. It feels like business as usual. Obviously, there are a few changes, but it's something that we can adapt to.
Yeah, and so the thing is right now, what's happening is that people are getting freaked out and buyer sentiment is really taking over and everyone's kind of like, rates are going up. So they're just waiting. And when there's no buyers, prices are coming down a little bit, right? So if you're a buyer out there and you're thinking, should I buy now? Well, I don't know. What do you do, right? You're probably thinking in your head, I'm going to wait a little longer since prices are falling and all that, right? So then that just exacerbates the problem even more. Even though realistically it doesn't do anything to the market if you're already have an existing variable rate mortgage or if you're getting a new one. It doesn't really make that much of a difference. But if I was a buyer right now, I wouldn't wait any longer. Like the rates will go up, so your payments will go up, but more so the big issue is the affordability because all mortgages are stress tested at a certain rate. So the fixed rates are going up, which means you have to qualify at 5.65 or 6% for your interest rates. And if it's variable, it's whatever your contractual rate is times plus 2%. So if the interest rates are going up, it means what you're qualified for goes down, which means your purchasing power goes down, right? As well. So if you wait any longer to buy, essentially what will happen is, sure, prices might come down, but your affordability comes down with it. And also the cost to borrow that also comes up as well too.
Yeah. And I had a conversation with a client last week when we put in an offer for a property down here in this area. And your purchasing decision doesn't exist in a vacuum. While you feel that you may not be affected too badly by interest rate changes and the mortgage stress tests, people out there are being affected by it. And it's not necessarily the people who are competing at your level. It's also people who are competing above your level who might be dropped down and have to look at properties that you're looking for as well. So if you were sitting on the fence before, it's not that you're going to have a decrease in competition. If anything, the competition for desirable homes in desirable neighborhoods is just going to continue to stay heated.
So what you're saying is that more people from the higher price range will have to come down a little bit.
Yeah.
And at that area, like where everybody, the average price point is going to get really crowded and below,
exactly.
Right? Obviously.
Yeah, because there's not enough supply. We know that. And there aren't new homes being built in the highly desirable areas, especially larger family homes. So there are, when we see the news that prices dropped 20% over throughout the GTA, for example, it's not necessarily true for every pocket, every neighborhood.
Well, the thing is, look, prices they've gone up so fast for the past 2 years because of all the liquidity that got injected into the market because of COVID and all that, the shutdowns. So yeah, prices went up by 50% in the past 2 years. So if they come down a little bit, maybe whether it's 10% or 15% or 20%. You're reading 20%? I didn't hear that.
I saw a Globe and Mail article that said 20%.
Well, I guess it depends on where you're looking at, right?
Yeah.
But in Toronto, I think the average price, what's the average price point right now? We'll figure that out.
The average price for detached in Toronto wasn't like over 1.4 million?
Something like that. That's all of Toronto though, right?
Yeah.
Like in good areas for detached, I think it's like 1.8.
Yeah.
2 million, right?
Yeah, core.
I don't know why the market is being affected. I mean, I know why, obviously, because everyone's getting freaked out, but I think they're being not so smart about that. I think that there's a small window of opportunity to buy while it's coming down just a little bit. And if you're waiting longer, you can your borrowing ability is going to be lower as well too. In other words, I already said that, but that is an issue, I think.
Well, I mean, if we look at why interest rates are increasing, it's because primarily we're using it as an instrument to tame inflation.
Right, inflation is probably caused by rising house prices because 40% or close to 40% of the CPI basket is through housing or housing costs, right? Carrying costs.
And when we're looking at 6.7% in inflationary growth, like we need to tame it down. I understand.
Yeah, it's true. So it's kind of like they got to crash the economy, right, to make the inflation come down a little bit. And in order to be, if you're a buyer waiting on the sidelines and you're thinking, oh, the price is going to come down like a lot significantly, I think it has to come down a lot before it becomes really affordable. In order for it to do that, like I'm talking about the 50% gain that we had pre-pandemic from pre-pandemic levels, that's going to hurt the economy. It's going to hurt a lot of people.
Yeah.
In fact, I probably think we're going to go into a recession because of that, if that ever were to happen.
Right? Yeah, absolutely. Especially with the amount of debt that the average Canadian now carries.
Yeah. So I don't know. It's going to be a wild ride out there. I'm going to see what's happening. I mean, I'm looking forward to seeing what's happening.
Every week's a new week.
Every single week. And with the strength of the, at the end of the day, guys, we're in a housing crisis. There's a shortage of inventory out there. There's a huge demand. We're an aging population. And without immigration, like this whole economy will fall apart because nobody's working. Everybody's relying on social services and the government's broke at the end of the day.
Yeah.
So we got to bring our people in. And I just got a comment on YouTube saying that the immigrants coming in, they're saying they're slaves, right? And that's such a sad thing to say, but I don't know. The rest of the world is kind of crappy right now. I think Canada is actually pretty good, like with all the wars going on, with all the just, lockdowns in China, and just, I don't know how prosperous Europe is, even for that matter. Like, I think they're doing really bad.
Well, I mean, even some countries, you have to pay for your own vaccination for COVID, which...
Well, that's not a reason to leave the country. But
no, it's not a reason, but it's, we have it relatively easy here.
Yeah. Just, I don't know. I think there's a lot of wonderful things about Canada. It goes to show exactly why there's 400,000 people, 430,000 people coming into Canada this year.
Yeah, with 450,000
the next 2 years, right?
The next 2 years,
Each year.
By 2024.
Yeah, so we're going to have a massive growth. We have 30-something million people and another million coming in for the next couple of years. How many are leaving? True, but the net immigration is still positive at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Right? So Canada's really aggressively opening the borders to bring people into here to support our social services because everybody's getting old and nobody can work anymore, and we're having labor shortages, so we need to house these people too, right? And people don't just come in isolation. They bring their families in who aren't productive members of society. So they all need houses. No, seriously, right? Like, well, they're not doing anything. Like, if you bring parents over here, you know what I mean? Like the older, like our generation anyway, our parents, they're not really working. They're in retirement mode. They're not going to contribute to the economy. They're not paying taxes, right? They're taking from the government. They're taking from roads, hospitals, and young kids with school and stuff like that. Somebody's got to pay for that. So that's why they have an aggressive immigration policy, I guess.
Yeah. But so far, every family that's moving to Canada that we've helped so far this year, they've liquidated their assets back home. They're prepared to move here. They're prepared to integrate fully. It's a huge difference from how it was a few years ago because they have all their banking financials ready to go. They already know what their plan is. They want to rent and they're planning on buying in the next 3 years. They have an action plan.
Yeah, and the foreign buyer exempt, a ban is exempted for people actually coming here to live as primary residences. So are you getting a lot of calls from people back home when you're like in town? I don't know, you have stuff, connections in Asia.
Yeah, so I've probably picked up 2 clients thinking about moving here. One of them is already doing it in June.
Right.
And then through our listings alone, I think we've helped like 4 or 5 different families with high-paying tech jobs. Yeah,
for sure. It's a big thing. Yeah. It's constant. Like I can't tell you how many times a day I get, or a week, I should say. I get calls for people coming here from just new to the country. Yeah. So I think at the end of the day, I wouldn't bet against housing. We're still in a housing crisis, just like Tesla. Don't bet against them. Housing market, I think, is on a strong growth in the overall picture of it. And again, the best thing I heard was that the housing is like a yo-yo, right? Yep. Going up and down, but on an escalator. So going up and up and up and up slowly. As population rises, as our population grows in Canada, we need housing, we need space.
Yeah.
So with that, thanks for watching. I don't think the rising interest rates are going to hurt Canada that much, or at least house prices. So don't bet against it. If you have any questions, give us a call.